This is Jim Engster, and our guest at this time is President Rick Gallo of Grambling State University, a world-famous university, largely because of its historic football program led by Eddie Robinson, but there's much more to Grambling than that. As part of the University of Louisiana system, Grambling has almost 4,900 students, and this week we had a day in which all the campuses, all 9 of them in the University of Louisiana system, took part in a unity day at the Capitol in which the presidents, such as President Gallo, made their case that higher education is an important entity that needs to be funded in the state of Louisiana. Good afternoon to you.
Jim, thank you so much for having me on. I tell you, I'm so honored. There have been so many legends who've sat across from you, and as a matter of fact, I want to say, didn't John Bell Edwards make his announcement of running for governor on your show?
He sure did.
So
that was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
hard to believe.
Yes, that's right. So it's an incredible honor to. Apparently, I didn't do enough in the legislature to get an invitation. So we're certainly very glad to be here today.
We've talked a few times, and this is the first time since you were named president of Grambling State University, and you know the terrain well. You're a graduate 30 years ago. That's hard to believe.
That's
right.
Man
as youthful looking as you, Mr. President, but it has been 30 years, and over that time there have been a lot of changes, haven't there?
There have been a lot of changes, and of course, this was not on my 5-year to-do list, quite frankly. When I decided not to run for the Senate back in 2015, my only goal was to practice law and coach my sons in t-ball, which was exactly what I was doing last year, almost this time, when discussions began with then interim system president Dr. Dan Renault about the impending vacancy in the presidency again at Grambling. Mm-hmm. And so it was not, again, something that we had looked to do. It wasn't on my list, but after getting the green light from my wife, which was obviously the first vote I needed to get, and after spending some time in fasting and prayer, how you have that peace that you're heading in the right direction, and for some it's hard to verbalize, but I can just tell you, when you have that feeling that yes, I know this is the direction I'm being led to go in, then it makes everything easier.
I've had many guests through the years say they prayed over a decision, but I don't know of many who have fasted. But you say you fasted?
I fasted and prayed, and that was actually something that I learned while campaigning for the Senate. I was visiting Pentecostals of Alexandria, Anthony Mangan's church, and the church was about to embark on a 72-hour fast and prayer, and so I had never done it before. I grew up Catholic, and it just wasn't a part of me other than giving up meat on Fridays during Lent. So as I did a little research and said, well, let me try this, and it was amazing how just that self-denial for a period of time in reverence of God can just give you that peace and that connection with God. And again, growing up Catholic, you sort of have the man in the middle. You've got to go through the priest to sort of be your link to God. But joining a non-denominational church and on my spiritual journey, I finally understood that I could have a one-on-one relationship with God, and so it was something I tried and found it to be something that was very rewarding for me. And so now any major decision, before I decided not to run for the Senate again, my wife and I both went through a period of fasting and prayer, and again it just gives you a peace of mind and a peace of spirit. Some call it like a fire in the belly or whatever it may be, that there's some indication of taking a certain course of action. And so it's a peace that I had, knowing that it was the right decision not to run for the Senate again, knowing that it was the right decision to apply for the presidency.
So for 3 days, you had what, nothing but water?
No, it was, and God, that was 4 years ago. I'm trying to remember what it was I gave up. I think it was no meat, nothing fried. It was essentially a lot of fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, you made a decision that many are heralding, and it's worked out well for 9 months, and it started with a fabulous football season. That's something people at Grambling used to take for granted, but the program hit some hard times. I think you're confident it's in the right direction now.
Absolutely, and I can't say enough about Coach Broderick Fobbs and his coaching staff and the team. They are just a remarkable program, and Coach Fobbs really brings a sense of Eddie Robinson, to that football program. Actually, Coach Fobbs was a captain on Coach Robinson's last team. Mm-hmm. So it is, sort of in his, in his blood. His father was a player for Coach Robinson as well. So, they understand the legacy of Eddie Robinson, and not just the, on the field X's and O's. I mean, they understand about, the character building and really having young men who buy into the program, not just to trying to win games. And so I think that's a reflection that team reflects their leader, and that definitely is taking us in a very positive direction. And one of the things I point out, and I mentioned this yesterday when they were being the football team was being honored at the state Senate, House and in the Senate, that this past fall, our team won the SWAC championship. Of course, we won the Bayou Classic, won the Celebration Bowl, which was the HBCU national championship, and along the way, we had 36 of our players gaining a 3.0 or better for the fall semester. We had actually 6 of our players had 4.0s. And so not only were they performing on the field, they were performing in the classroom. And I think, that sometimes gets lost in the whole student-athlete conversation. But again, Coach Fobbs, makes sure that these students are attending classes, they're in study hall, and that they are truly being students first and then athletes. And it makes a difference.
We're hearing the voice of Rick Gallo, 15 years in the state legislature, now president of his alma mater, Grambling State University, and will return after this timeout on the Louisiana Radio Network.
Making Louisiana great again.
No naps for Trump.
This is the Jim Engster Show
on the Louisiana Radio Network.
This is Jim Engster, and we're continuing our discussion with Grambling State University President Rick Gallo. For a decade and a half, he was in the Louisiana House and Senate, the last 4 years in the Senate, and he gave that up to take a shot at becoming the president of his alma mater, and that he is. He's been on the job for 9 months. Grambling, like other schools in the state, is facing some budget issues, massive budget issues, but enrollment has stabilized, and I think you're confident that there will actually be an increase as you move forward.
Absolutely, and as we look at, I guess, all the indicators that would, support seeing the enrollment increase, we had in the fall approximately 7% increase in enrollment. This spring, we're up about 6%. Our applications for this upcoming fall are running about 25% ahead of where they were this time last year. Our spring high school day, we had almost twice the number of students attend the spring high school day. Back in the fall, we had over 2,700 students compared to 2,000 the year before attending high school day. So the interest is there, and we've been actively recruiting all over the state, all over the country, and so we're excited about the direction we're going in. Of course, so many of our alums and prospective students are on social media. So looking to my right here, Will Sutton, who is our communications director, has done a tremendous job of increasing our social media presence and our regular mainstream media presence. So I think that has made a difference as well. For too long, the only information you heard coming out of Grambling was negative, and it wasn't that we didn't have positive things going on. We just were not commanding the conversation. And so, again, I credit Will and his team for doing a much better job of promoting the positive things that we're doing on campus. And, everywhere we go now, we get positive comments about, we're glad you're keeping us up to date as alums on things that are going on. When we look at the fundraising has increased over the last 9 months. Our involvement in research, getting grants, writing successful grants for funding for research, all of that has increased. So we're very excited about the direction we're going in.
What's the biggest challenge right now?
The biggest challenge, and I like to quote my former colleague, former Senator Bob Kostelka used to always say, the answer is money. Now, what's the question? And so, obviously the funding shift is always a concern when you think about the fact that when I was elected to the legislature back in 2000, the state was funding approximately 65% of higher ed funding. And now it's the exact opposite. Actually, 72% of higher ed funding comes from tuition and fees. So, again, enrollment is an obvious necessity when it comes to being able to fund your operation. So, but not only that, you have to factor in deferred maintenance, and there are other things that we absolutely will have to address on our own with not a great expectation that the state will, in the short term, provide a lot of the financing that we'll need to do these things.
The HBCUs have been analyzed a lot of late, and I think most people have come to the conclusion that they are quite important to the fabric of their communities, states, and the country at large. And the President of the United States says he's on board. Was that pleasing to you?
It was, and of course, for 50 HBCU presidents to go to the White House and actually go in the Oval Office with the sitting president, I think was significant. And meeting both with President Trump, with Vice President Pence, all of his staff that we read and hear so much about, Steve Bannon, Reince Priebus, Stephen Miller, Kellyanne Conway, to meet with his top level team and have one after another saying this president is committed to doing more for HBCUs is certainly encouraging. And one of the things that I talked about, we've already seen an increase in the amount of grant funding. Currently, HBCUs only participate in about 2.8% of all federal funding in grants and research. We have an aspirational goal of 10%. Now, will we get there? I don't know, but when you're talking, hundreds of billions of dollars in allocations to grants and research each year, we're certainly encouraged that, now with the HBCU initiative being in the White House versus 3 layers down in the Department of Education, that there will be a greater level of engagement between the federal government, the various agencies, and HBCUs participating in that research.
And we'll return with more from Rick Gallo, the president of Grambling State University, after this time out on the Louisiana Radio Network.
When you read tomorrow's paper, don't be surprised to see something you already heard here today.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Intelligent talk for Louisiana. This is the Jim Engster Show on the Louisiana Radio Network.
This is Jim Engster, and we're spending some more time with Rick Gallo, the president of Grambling State University, who's in Baton Rouge today. He's been at the Capitol the last few days, old stomping grounds for him. He spent many years rubbing shoulders at the legislature as a senator and as a representative, and sometimes it's rough and tumble down there, isn't it?
It is, and of course it was somewhat of a homecoming to visit the House and the Senate yesterday, and to see many of my former colleagues. And I wanted to pat myself on the back a little bit in that Speaker Taylor Barra was a member of the House and Governmental Affairs Committee that I chaired during my last term in the House, and of course going through redistricting. Cameron Henry, Representative Henry, is chair of Appropriations. Representative Landry, Nancy Landry, who chairs Education, was on House and Government Affairs as well. So I think I must have played some part in leadership development, because so many of my former committee members are now in key leadership roles, and it does make a difference. Having personal relationships with members of the legislature. They've known me to be a straight shooter, and when I'm there advocating on behalf of Grambling State University and on behalf of the University of Louisiana system, they know that they can trust that what we're sharing with them and the the advocacy can be can be trusted. And we talk about yesterday's day at the Capitol. The University of Louisiana system has over 90,000 students, and I don't know that we've always capitalized on the mere size of the system and how important it is to our state. I mean, and most people, when you think about higher ed, think about LSU first. Well, UL system is collectively larger than LSU. And so, again, I think we have to do a better job of tooting our own horn so that decision makers will understand firsthand the importance and the impact that the UL system does play in this state.
Well, Grambling State University became world famous because of the football program led by Eddie Robinson, who won 408 games at Grambling.
That's right.
More Pro Football Hall of Famers from Grambling, by the way, than any other school in the state, including LSU.
That's right. LSU's got 3, Louisiana Tech has 3, and Northwestern has 1. I learned all of that during the Super Bowl when HBCU NFL Hall of Famers were honored this year, and it was certainly great that my wife Christy and I were able to attend the Super Bowl and be a part of the Super Bowl celebration of those Hall of Famers.
And your AD is a guy named Paul Bryant, a great name in college athletics. It's not Paul Bear Bryant, it's Paul
Tiger Bryant. That's right. We gave him a nickname. We wanted to make sure no one confused him with the bear. And he would have been here with us. Paul's brother apparently has had a serious medical issue, so he's had to leave out. So we certainly want to keep Paul and his family in our prayers. But we're really excited about Paul. Joined us January 3rd. Comes from South Carolina State and has been in higher administration of college athletics for over 25 years. So he brings a wealth of experience with him, and so we're excited about the future of all of our athletic programs. We're currently, we've got searches going for men's basketball coach and for our girls soccer team. So if anybody listening is interested, both of those will be posted and open until April 28th. So go to www.gram.edu and Graham, Gram.edu, and click on the employment link and get your application in. Come grow with us at Grambling State University.
Well, on Wednesday, this Louisiana Day at the Capitol, University of Louisiana System Day, it started with the Grambling Tiger Marching Band on the House steps. I'm sure that was a great event, and your smiles, so there's no better way to showcase your university.
Absolutely. And, we, between our band being there, football team, our cheerleaders, student leadership was there. I mean, we had a great showing of Grambling State University yesterday. And of course, growing up in the Grambling community, I always wanted to be a part of the Tiger Marching Band. And when it was time to make a decision on college, for me, there was it was a no-brainer. I was going to Grambling, so I could be in the band. Even though I had an offer to Dartmouth, it was something as a child I always wanted to do. So I still get a little bit giddy like a kid when I hear our band performing. And Dr. Larry Pennell is doing a tremendous job with leading our band. And we just have a great team of leaders on our campus and our students. Again, I get really excited, interacting with the students. And growing up there, I had the opportunity to know personally Ralph Waldo Emerson Jones, who was our second president, and then Dr. Joseph Benjamin Johnson, who followed Prez. And they were both very interactive with the students. They were out on campus, eating in the cafeteria, visiting classrooms. And so I've tried to model, my presidency after those two great men. And I tell you, those are two great role models to have. Prez was president 36 years, Dr. Johnson for 14. So I don't know that I can stick around for 36, but we'll certainly try to do the best we can to build upon all that they did.
We've got about 30 seconds, but what do you see as the future of the Bayou Classic?
Well, I tell you what, this past year we had over 68,000 fans there. It's the largest post-Katrina attendance, and so we're excited about the growth and future of the Bayou Classic. And as I told Coach Odoms at Southern, I'm pulling for him to win all of his games up until the end of November. So we, of course, it was the first time in 43 years that both teams were undefeated in the conference when meeting at the Bayou Classic, and we were tied with 22 or 21-21 in terms of career in the Bayou Classic. So there were a lot of things last year that really made it special. And when I compare that 68,000 with the 70,000 at the Super Bowl, that's impressive. And I think, again, we as Grambling and Southern definitely have to make sure we show the appreciation and involvement with Bayou Classic, because ultimately our students benefit from our attendance and support.
Well, thank you, President Gallo, and we look forward to visiting with you again soon. But congratulations on the great start at
Jim,
Grambling.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And we're back after this pause on the Louisiana Radio Network.